Once the Constitution was penned, ratification was not automatic. The colonies quickly divided into two separate factions, the Federalists and the anti-federalists. The Federalists favored a strong national government, the growth of industry, and they supported the newly written Constitution.
But the anti-federalists preferred stronger state governments, a weaker national government, the continuance of an agrarian economy instead of an industrial economy, and they really weren't big fans of the Constitution.
Not too hard to decode, right? The Federalists wanted a strong federal government, the anti-federalists didn't. It was the same argument. In general, the Federalists were made up of merchants from the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states and people who owned a lot of land. If you needed a word to describe the Federalists, you'd probably call them elitist.
The anti-federalists, on the other hand, were small farmers, shopkeepers, and working Joes. They believed in the good of the common man and were in favor of a more participatory democracy. In other words, they wanted the government to be more accountable to the people, and they wanted to see more protections of individual rights, something they feared a strong national government couldn't give them.
Unfortunately for the anti-federalists, the Federalists brought out the big guns. James the Mad Dog Madison, Alexander the Ham Hamilton, and John Jam Jam Jay. And these big guns proceeded to write some documents called the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers were a series of 85 political papers that explained the rationale behind the new Constitution. The anti-federalists volleyed back with a series of letters that attempted a line-by-line critique of the Constitution.
Unfortunately for the anti-federalists, two of the three guys who wrote the Federalist Papers wound up on dollar bills. Now, when was the last time you heard about an anti-federalist?
After a feud that would make Shakespeare proud, even though he is English, the Federalists triumphed, and the Constitution was eventually ratified by a final vote by the states, though the anti-federalists didn't go home entirely unhappy.
One of the main goals of the anti-federalists was to protect personal liberties. They still felt the wounds that England had inflicted on their personal liberties, such as the right to a fair trial. The anti-federalists convinced almost everyone else that personal liberties were a good idea. And so, before the Constitution could be ratified, the Bill of Rights was written and became the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.